Hey there guys, how's it going? My name is Sumit Chatterjee from the Flow Zone Academy, and I'm a flow state coach, which means that I help you feel better and perform better. Today I want to talk about this concept in Sanskrit called vasudeva kutumbakam. What exactly does this mean? This statement means that we are all a part of one single family on this earth. One world, one family. It's amongst one of the most popular expressions emerging from Sanskrit lit. Literally translated as the world is one family. So it's the clearest affirmation of this all-inclusive nature of Indian thought, tradition, and religion. Now, I don't want to make this video about religion. I just want you to think primarily about this philosophy, because India has this concept of unity amongst diversity. All right, and it kind of reminds me of the time when I was in Thailand. And it's kind of like a laissez-faire, kind of laid-back quote, which is same, but different. And they had it on all the t-shirts. I remember I used to be in Thailand for high school, and they had these t-shirts that said same, but different. And I don't know primarily if they meant it as a sarcastic thing because of the contradictory nature, but I really start to understand that shirt a lot more as I've grown older. Being able to see the oneness in all things. Now, this is also primarily related to the flow state, because once you can merge with what you're doing, once you can understand that this is a human being, it's never a business to business, it's always a human to human. It's never a parent to child, it's always a human to human. We have to understand our roles. Of course, we don't want to speak to our mentors as if they're, little kids, but at the same time, if we understand that everybody at the core, most pinnacle origin point is the same. They are humans. There's not this race and this race and this race. It's just the human race. Vasudeva means earth. Eva means emphasizing. And Kutumbakam means family. It's a collection of Sanskrit fables where they wrote in prose and verse, understanding the pains and pleasures of others. You have blind people who also recognize the victory pose. You have certain people who just know in their hearts what other people are feeling. We see it from watching a movie and reacting to that movie. It's got a don't worry, be happy type of vibe. It's got a Hakuna Matata type of vibe, right? It's an agree to disagree. Well, Africans call it Ubuntu. I exist because you exist. It sounds like a very lofty Vedic thought, but it affirms the worth of all life, of all plants, of all animals. Just as the goal of yoga is to join unity. So I'm gonna go inside, guys. It's raining on my laptop right now, so I'm gonna head inside. I'll see you guys soon to finish this off. Talking a little bit about the belief in oneness scale, as well as some of the old philosophies about God and the universe. All right, see you guys soon. So why am I being called to record this video? Why am I being called to record this video? I believe we're at a time of crisis, and this is the call of the current time, stepping into 5D, if you even want to call it that. But it's a time for all social leaders, all religious leaders, all educational leaders to come together to find a new vision of the world as one family. And together we can construct a vision for peace building and developing harmonious relationships between communities, groups, and between nations. We've built a society that's violent and explosive. Our society is crumbling. The wave of destruction is constantly taking over the way of life. Globalization has made it that the world is just one market. And with that comes the age of corruption, conflicts, violence, due to decreasing human values. But if that person is my brother and that person is also part of my family, why do I keep hurting my family members? And family does not mean that they have to be your blood. It means you love them and then they love you. This is something that I got from Jackie Chan. I met Jackie Chan when I was young in Thailand. He came to visit and give a speech on peace of all things. And I think it was really interesting because as a person who studies Kung Fu, who does these dangerous stunts, for him to speak about peace is even more powerful because it is a self-defense. He fights so he does not have to fight. Do you guys get that? India's always been kind of a messenger of peace in the past, and it's all been rooted in this one idea. The moment there's a gap of separation in society, of rich and poor, good and bad, It gives rise to injustice and the depletion of peace in society. What do we do with certain addicts? We get them to feel much more isolated. We shame them so they get more isolated. What do we do with anybody who's a little bit different to us? We shame them and make them feel much more isolated and separate from people. But the opposite, the real core ideal, is a philosophy that inculcates an understanding that the whole world is one family. If the whole ocean is one, then how is a drop of the ocean different from the ocean? You know, if God wanted us to be separate, He wouldn't have made a world. He would have put us all on different planets. But you see, the whole point of what's happening is to get you to wake up within this dream. And you might say, yeah, but we're in different countries, so we're in different countries, aren't they? Well, once upon a time, we had tectonic plates that didn't shift. We were all part of one. Or maybe you forgot about that. I'm reminding you again. I always said I was a citizen of the planet. I didn't really know what that means. It sounds a little bit cheesy and very idealistic or optimistic or, utopian, whatever you want to call it. And people can come along and disagree with me. I'm completely open to that. You can challenge this idea of oneness. But yeah, but then why are we all different? Well, the universe has given us creative limits in this world of duality. Imagine living with only day. I've been to LA, I know what that's like. It's sunny all the time, and after a while you start to feel like this is a bubble. But then there's a passage of time, there's different seasons, there's this understanding of change is the constant, it's the norm. Then we don't fear resistance as much. We're open to things changing and adapting, and we're going through this. I believe that, it started to rain because this is the message that a lot of people, truth seekers and truth leaders, have been trying to say for a while. So even the universe is going, we won't let him speak. Time for rain. All right, maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I'm going to go through the belief in oneness scale and have a look at all of these questions. I'm going to read them out. Just have a look and see if you tick all of these boxes. Beyond surface appearances, everything is fundamentally one. Although many seemingly separate things exist, they're all part of the same whole. At the most basic level of reality, everything is one. The separation amongst individual things is an illusion. In reality, everything is one. Everything is composed of the same basic substance, whether one thinks of it as spirit, consciousness, quantum processes, or whatever. And the same basic essence permeates everything that exists. And this is whatever you believe in. Whether it's God, whether it's Tao, whether it's this feeling of oneness. We can have different schools of thought all coming together. You know what I firmly believe? Is that all roads lead to enlightenment. All paths lead to glory. And you can question me on this, but I think it's very interesting of the real meaning of sin, which is an archery term, which means that you missed your mark. You missed your mark. That's not what life is about. It's about having fun, living free, being kind to others. This thing is so straightforward, it's so obvious, but it's hidden in plain sight. Science comes in with one approach and spirituality comes in with one approach, but the point of it is for science and spirituality to join hands. This is what I'm trying to do, is merge the hemispheres of East and West, of this thought and that thought, and be integrated, be fully integrated. So I told you the belief in oneness scale. Now the real question is, do you believe in all of those things? Because if you don't, there's something still there in your thought that is creating separation from you, and separation leads to suffering. I believe we're all God's children, but some children misbehave. Doesn't mean God loves those kids less, right? Just because God has a weird fan club at times, doesn't mean we have to take away from His pure love energy, right? And I say His, I don't want to give a gender, but even in Nietzsche's quote, he said, and we have killed him. Let's take that quote, for instance, God is dead. What did he mean by that? It's sort of like a clickbait of the mind, right? You hear a term like that, two topics that you're not supposed to be talking about in social norm, like don't mention religion and don't mention, death in your first date with somebody, right? It's just common, like, social etiquette. But he said both. He's just straight up. He's like, he's questioning all of philosophy now. He's making a statement that makes you ponder, that makes you think. And isn't that what philosophers do? They make you think. What did he mean by that, right? This is my own interpretation of this. I'm not going to make a faith step for you. This is not about religion. This is about intelligent thought. Nietzsche was alive at a time where there was corrupt churches and a lot of strange things were happening there. A lot of dark forces. And he himself had a father wound. And you know what Christians call God? The Holy Father. We killed him, he said. Is it that we actually killed him? Or that new pathways came along? One of mindfulness, one of science, one of much more deep philosophy and insight. You see, death is just a transformation. So I believe what he meant by God is dead is that our idea of God has changed. From theology to theosophy. And this is a really deep one. You can ponder about this for ages. If you're any, he just spit in the face of all of philosophy, questioning whether there even is a thing. He just made a statement that said nope. And a lot of people hear that statement and they take it in a different way. It's like the OG trigger, right? It's the OG trigger. Like someone makes a statement like that, you immediately go, what? Like, you know how Nas said hip hop is dead. So now Nas is taking this topic, similar idea, establishing it towards hip-hop. So interesting, right? So interesting. But anyway, let's come back to this idea of unity or oneness, wholeness, right? In psychology, we have this idea called fragmentation, where if you feel like this is a part of me and this is a part of me and they don't get along, you have an internal conflict within you. The whole mission of psychology is actually, psyche, meaning spirit, is to bring it together, is to integrate, to individuate, as Jung calls it, to come back into your beingness. We must strengthen our minds. At a time of oversensitivity, that's what we can do, is truly step into our strength. And strength does not mean physical strength. I'm talking about spiritual strength. I'm talking about the ability to have a knowingness that you are trusted, that you are safe, and that this is your world and this is nature, and the fact that we can learn from nature. Success already must exist in our heart. It is not a future thing that, I'm going to become successful. No, success already emanates in your beingness. It's about opening your eyes to that truth and seeing yourself as the success that you are. Now, this doesn't mean delusion. This doesn't mean, grandiose ideas about yourself and your own ego inflation. This means actually seeing the truth of your beingness. If at your core you feel I'm a bad person, you're going to fall into a trap, justifying yourself, approval seeking, all this mentality. If in your heart of heart you know you're a good person, you have a good heart and a good soul, you're going to keep going on this upward spiral. So first of all, let's take out any of these ideas that I'm a bad person for doing this. This shadow work must be integrated within each and every person, and it's a sense of honor to step up against the evil in the world. It is Jedi versus Sith. It does feel like that, doesn't it? But that duality must flow. Without sadness, how would we know joy? Without fear, how would we know courage? Courage is not removing fear, it's acting in spite of it. So let's come back to this idea of oneness, guys. It's so simple. Once I was freaking out, I was having an anxiety attack. I remember I called one of my friends and he was like, man, you're still in separation. You're buying into the 3D reality and you're not in connection with the divine right now. You're craving something else, not knowing that your higher self is on your side, nudging you and winking at you and holding your hand throughout the process. So he just told me this simple concept of come back to oneness, come back to oneness, come back to oneness. And I want to leave you with that message. If you got anything from today's video, I want you to know to come back to your oneness, to find that connection with God again. Now, whatever way that you do that, I'm not going to impose that reality on you. This can be done through the Bible, through the Quran, through the Buddhist texts and the sutras. It can be done through the Vedas. I'm an omniist myself. I believe that there's truth in all of these things. And no one else can decide that for you. You got to decide that for you. Know that you are protected, that you are safe, that you're in the here and now. And one choice can change your circumstance. One choice. Coming back to oneness. The moments when I feel like I'm moving away from my purpose, from my higher truth, that's the moment where separation is going to kick in. It's going to be very evident. This self-actualization, you connecting with your divine purpose in life, that's the biggest journey. That's the biggest undertaking. That is your dharma. It's your duty, it's your path. And if you stray from that path, life will remind you. The universe will remind you. I had some interesting downloads today, didn't I? If you're not a subscriber yet, I would really, really appreciate if you press that subscribe button, press that little bell I post every day. In that case, you get an update of all my new videos. Have an amazing day. May the flow be with you, and stay legendary.